Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our Community Day kickoff. Thank you for joining me both here in Rangos and across campus. My name is Q, and I'm one of your head orientation counselors. I'm so happy to have you all gathered here today for this very special occasion. This Community Day marks the very first of its kind. As someone who has been involved not just in orientation, but in other leadership positions on campus, I noticed a gap in the experience that we were providing to our first-year students. Here we were bringing together this diverse student body, but not fully equipping them with the tools they needed to thrive in this environment. I saw an opportunity for us to strengthen the foundations for students to successfully work and grow with people who may not be similar to them. So I, along with orientation leadership, other student leaders, and administrators across campus, are creating dedicated space in our orientation program to discuss the building blocks that will help us create a more inclusive community and a more welcoming student experience. It is my hope that you all will be able to take what you learned today and use it to shape our school into a space where all students feel comfortable and confident to put their hearts in the work. Carnegie Mellon is such a rich community full of people from all different backgrounds, and I'm so excited for you all to see this showcase throughout the session that we have planned today. After a welcome from our Dean of Students, Gina Casalegno, and a keynote speech from our Vice Provost for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, Dr. Wanda Heading-Grant, you all will be working with some of the amazing staff members from our Center for Student Diversity and Inclusion, as well as equity and inclusion leaders from your respective colleges to take a deeper dive into what identity, diversity, and inclusion can mean for you during your time here at Carnegie Mellon. The day will cap off at 8 p.m. tonight with our Community Collage program, a collection of performances and speeches that will give you a deeper look into our vibrant campus culture. Now, I am pleased to introduce Dean Gina Casalegno, who oversees Carnegie Mellon's Division of Student Affairs, leading 16 departments that engage students in every facet of their Carnegie Mellon education. She came to Carnegie Mellon in 2002 and has held a variety of leadership roles in her 19-year tenure before being named Vice President for Student Affairs and Dean of Students. Please join me in giving a warm welcome to Gina.
Good morning. I know you've got something better than that. Good morning, class of 2025. How are we? All right. We didn't work it all out last night at Playfair. It's good, it's good. I'm so pleased to be with you this morning. And first, I would like to say thank you to Q for your kind introduction and for really laying some threads for what I think today's program will be all about. As a university administrator, you never want to follow a talented student, and all of you are talented students as a speaker because, wow, Q, thank you so much for your reflections and for all that you and the head orientation counselors and our orientation team have done, really as the architects of this week's Welcome to the University. And if I could do a little bit of humble bragging and fully biased opinion sharing, I will say I think it's the best orientation in the country. This team puts their heart and souls into this work to help each and every one of you make a successful transition to Carnegie Mellon as you build a new home here at CMU. I am so proud of all that they do and grateful for their contribution to this university and helping us grow, as Q just talked about. So can you guys help me give it up for our orientation team? I hope you all can see the smile in my eyes. All right. So some of you I had the opportunity to meet over the course of our opening weekend, and some of you tuned in with your families at Sunday's President's Welcome. And at that event, I shared with you and your families how very excited we are for you to join us as the newest members of the Tartan family. I hope that you have felt that at every turn, from the welcome as you first pulled up your car or your luggage, in that move-in welcome to your first floor meetings, Playfair last night, how did things go? Okay, so that mixed reaction is super normal. For some people, Playfair is a little on the overwhelming side, especially as we're coming out of a pandemic. I hope we're coming out of a pandemic. And for others, it is totally their jam. And if you are in either one of those places or somewhere in between, that's okay. What I hope last night gave you was the beginning of starting to get to know your community. And we're going to dive more deeply into that with today's programs. It's been a long 18 months since campus felt this alive and full of potential, and it is really energizing for us to have you here. On Sunday, you also heard, for those of you who could tune in, President Jahanian shared some statistics about you and offered this up to your families, that you hail from 45 states, plus the District of Columbia and U.S. territories, as well as 36 countries from around the world. And as our newest class of Tartans, you are joining students from around campus who hail from across the United States. We have almost 6,000 international graduate and undergraduate students who come from over 90 countries spanning the globe. So you all represent 36. You've got a good number more to go in terms of meeting people across campus in how multicultural and global this university is. You also heard from us on Sunday that we see in you, the reason you are here is because you bring the leadership capacity and the commitment to your community to be the change makers we need to see a real impact in society. Enrolling and employing a diverse community, which at Carnegie Mellon we know is the foundation for excellence in all that we do here. We know that that's not enough, though, to educate and train the change makers we need in society. We've got to do something with that talent. Q talked a little bit about this. We've got to cultivate an inclusive community where each individual is respected and valued, where we are all supported to reach our full potential. And every one of us in this room and across the live stream, all across campus, has a role to play. So why do we prioritize this on your third day of orientation? Spending a day together in orientation focusing on how each one of us chooses to be in community with one another, living our values of diversity, equity, and inclusion is central to what we do here at CMU. Because at CMU, we are committed to being a place where every member of our Tartan family is able to bring their authentic selves to this community, where each of us can thrive, and where each of us can grow our own understanding of self and our connection to the rich diversity that comprises our community. I'd really love to stand up here and say that because we proclaim these values, it means every member of this community every day feels a sense of belonging, knows that they're respected and embraced for their full identity, feels they can explore and learn things about things they maybe don't know a lot about. But the reality is we here are a microcosm of society. The need for urgent campaigns like Black Lives Matter, Stop Asian Hate, the Human Rights Campaign, and fighting a disturbing rise in anti-Semitism around the country and globe don't only exist out there in the world beyond some CMU bubble. We aren't protected in a bubble here, where we are immune to the challenges that we face as a society. These are real issues, they're urgent issues, they're ones that we must seek to understand and dismantle in our world, in this nation, here in Pittsburgh, and right here on our own campus. I don't know about you, some days, most days, that's a lot to grapple with for me. Our community brings together a group of individuals who are all on our own individual and unique journeys, and that leaves a lot of room for things to be messy, for understanding to be forged, for learning to be embraced, for mistakes to be made, and forgiveness sought. For each of us to share our stories, to be celebrated for who we are, and to embrace the freedom to continue writing our story, to chart our courses in an environment where we can trust one another to join us along the way, where we're challenged to discover new parts of who we are and who we want to be, and reify who we are at the core. where we will find what binds us and identify what distinguishes us as different. Being curious about others' experiences and identities is what we will be about as a Tartan community. You heard a little bit from Q that today you will meet members from the Center for Student Diversity and Inclusion to help facilitate our curiosity, our learning, and our exploration. The center is a convening space on campus for those dedicated to the ideal of enhancing an inclusive and transformative student experience for all students, with a focus on access to higher education, student success, climate, and intergroup dialogue. Our center team partners with colleagues across campus and in your schools and colleges to create a rich array of engagement opportunities to help each of us on our diversity, equity, and inclusion journeys. You'll have a chance to meet with these experts today. I'm grateful to each of you for your commitment to all of your CMU education. It is central to our mission of educating tomorrow's leaders, who will be those change makers we so very much need in our world. One of those educators is this morning's keynote, and she will set the stage for the important work we'll do together as a community. Before I introduce my friend and colleague, Dr. Wanda Heading-Grant, I'd first like to give you a really quick homework assignment. I know classes haven't started yet, but this homework assignment will tie to today and the week's set of programming, including tonight's community collage, which you heard a little bit about from Q, and is one of my very favorite orientation events every year. As you go through your orientation experience, I want you to think about one way, if you think of 10, great, but one way that you want to have an impact on this campus. Maybe that's a tall order for your third day on campus, but as I think you'll see throughout our program today and this week, that's what we do at CMU. We shine a light on our extraordinary students, on you, and the many ways you will change our university through your contributions. Today's program will help you learn more about our community through exploration of our histories and stories. And tonight's collage offers an uplifting program that showcases the diversity and the talent of our student body. Our students will offer their candid reflections on how it will take each one of us at this program today to commit ourselves to living out our values of diversity, equity, and inclusion at Carnegie Mellon. I hope that as you head home tonight, your homework will be done because you'll be able to imagine yourself on that stage next year at Collage as one of our Tartan diversity and inclusion champions. As we build toward tonight's finale, we've got a great program this morning, and I am so pleased to introduce our keynote speaker, Dr. Wanda Heading-Grant. Dr. Heading-Grant is our Vice Provost for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. She's taking a little picture of me. And Carnegie Mellon's Chief Diversity Officer. Hi, Wanda. She also holds a faculty appointment as Distinguished Service Professor in the Hines College of Information Systems and Public Policy. Throughout Dr. Heading-Grant's 30-year career in higher education, she has established programs, policies, and practices fundamental to the advancement of inclusive excellence and diversity, equity, and inclusion. She has built a reputation as a cultural architect who is able to build and sustain real and lasting change. Although she's only been a member of the CMU family since April, her impact is already deeply felt and warmly embraced. I'm grateful to call her colleague and friend and look forward to her wise reflections to frame today's program where all of us will have an opportunity to participate. At the end of Dr. Heading-Grant's keynote address, you will be able to pose questions, so please engage her talk wherever you are, in the simulcast rooms as well. So please engage her talk with intention and think about what questions are sparked for you that you would like to pose following Dr. Heading-Grant's inspiring words. Please join me in a very warm Tartan welcome to Dr. Wanda Heading-Grant.
All right, thank you, Gina. Let's see if I can get my computer to be nice to me, and it is. So I want to thank you, Gina, for that nice introduction, and I want to thank you for all that you do here at CMU. You are one of the people who have made me feel so welcome and have advised me, and I so appreciate you and your time. My pronouns are she, her, and hers, and I come before you with my heart and my mind wide open. This is an important time in your lives as well as your families, and I feel great excitement sharing this moment with you, especially as your inaugural Vice Provost and Chief Diversity Officer. I know you're wondering what I'm going to say, but I got a secret that I must share. I have an addiction. Addiction to selfies. So, right? So I need you to pretend that you're in the room with other individuals who are going to college at different institutions. And this is CMU best. So I'm going to need you to help me keep up my reputation as a selfie queen. So at this point, join me in my selfie, and let's just give a big cheer for being here. Woo! I think I'll be all right now because I got a selfie. I believe everyone has a story worth sharing. I have a lot of them. Some good, some bad, and some right in the middle. As you sit there and think about what else I may say, I invite you to listen to a snippet of my story. A story that starts with, "This was never the plan." March 14th, 2020 started off like any other day for me, but it ended quite differently for myself and for the thousands of employees I was working with. We were going remote. As I gathered a packed bag filled with books, pens, and a set of headphones, I closed my laptop and put it under my arms, and I looked around my office for the last time. I wondered if I had packed up everything I would need to work remotely for an unspecified amount of time. Then I realized I would miss the small things that I treasured, but inadvertently took for granted as the years passed. The collection of my colorful angel figurines on my bookshelf, autographed books from colleagues and guest speakers, the black and white picture frames that held so many memories. As I reflected on the work I had done to date and the work that had yet to be done, I wondered when I would return to this space, my home away from home. Working from home was nothing new. It wasn't a new concept. I had done it before for a day or two to focus on an assignment because I didn't want that many interruptions, but this was different. Like many, I was about to do it for an undetermined amount of time under unforeseen circumstances. I know I could do it. I knew I could do it, but I worried about the relational me, the person who thrives on human interactions. There would be no more strolls to the cafe for coffee, no more trips to the restroom that sparked the occasion, impromptu exchange with a colleague or a student. I was going to miss those social interactions that filled my days as an administrator, faculty, and colleague in higher education. As I turned off my lights and turned towards the door, I reminded myself I had two skills that have never failed me: the gifts of innovation and adaptability. I did not know I would not be going back to that office as the vice president for DE&I at the University of Vermont. Why? because I became a tartan just like you. I am so happy. Y'all need to clap now. I was announced to CMU community this past January, and I started April 1st remotely, and 3 weeks ago, I got in my car and drove to Pittsburgh and picked up my apartment keys. So Dr. Wanda Heading-Grant has arrived to this campus, and it brings me so much pleasure to be your Vice Provost for DNI and Chief Diversity Officer. We all have endured, yes. We all have endured so much from COVID-19 and other social ills of the world. My own daughter, Risha, just graduated from college, and the journey of her senior year was not what she, her dad, nor I imagined. I remembered she, as well as her siblings, when they went off to college. I cried, I laughed, I prayed, not only for their safety, but for their happiness as well. Handing my young adult children off to institutions that I could only hope would truly welcome them and make them feel like they belonged was hard. I must admit, as a parent, my fear sometimes overshadowed my excitement for them, my joy for them. My own awareness of being Black in America was embedded in me very early on in my life. And it did not leave me when I went off to college, and nor did it escape my children when they went off to their institutions. Questions floated in and out of my head. Questions like, how would their racial identity impact how they navigated the institutional structure of higher education? How would they be treated by their peers, faculty, staff, even the external community when they went shopping to groceries? How would they be treated? I also thought about how was I treated when I first went off to college as a first generation student. Many things flooded my mind. Would diversity, inclusion, and equity be valued for real? Would their sexual orientation and gender identity, learning disability, their national origin, would it be embraced? It did not help that I was all things DNI, otherwise known as a DNI professional. I knew what to ask. I thought about it. But parenthood then and now is my love. So don't be stingy with your parents, with virtual hugs, telephone hugs, and live hugs, because we need them. Some of us go a little bit crazy without you. I remember fondly each one of my children's move-in days and move-out days. I want you to check this out. Here's a photo of my daughter, Risha, who helped me move her older sister, Whitney, who was not organized, out of her sophomore residential hall. This was the last day to move out. It was 92 plus degrees that day. And we had an hour, and she lived on the 8th floor of her building. So we sweated and sweated. And Risha was not pleased to have to ride 40 minutes with a green garbage bag on her lap, filled with everything she thought her sister could have put in the garbage. A couple years later, here's the same child and her twin brother, Shane, heading off to separate colleges. One is all smiles, and the other one only cared if he had all the makings for a small apartment, including his Xbox. I know you might be wondering what stories your parents or significant others, caretakers will be sharing about you and their experiences in the next several years. You're probably wondering, what did I do a couple days or a week ago? I never imagined the path after high school would take me into the world of higher education administration. I grew up moderately poor. Under my picture in my high school yearbook, it says that I aspired to go into a career of business. I wrote those words down on an index card that I was asked by the year committee to write down. I wasn't sure what I wanted as a career. I just had been told that I was good in math, and I was a part of a cluster group of students, who was expected to go to college. I thought a career in business sounded good, reasonable, and yes, I did want to impress my peers. In that moment, it did not matter that I did not have a plan. I never thought about going into business. I did not know how I was going to get there, and I didn't have the money to do it. I only wanted to attend college. And yes, please my mother. My father, it was okay, but my mom, yes. It has now been 30 plus years since I filled out that index card and arrived to a city that felt more like a large town rather than a city. My new city seemed as unfamiliar to me and my brown skin as I to it. It seemed to attract more smiles, but it also seemed to attract looks of bewilderment. More to the point, my arrival to Burlington, Vermont was like a movie scene, but there was no cameras to turn off. I could not stop it. Nope, it was my reality. In that moment, I came to the painful realization I was no longer home. I waited for someone on the street to ask me, "Can I help you?" Because they assumed I was lost, that somehow I had taken the wrong turn and ended up in Burlington by mistake. Thank goodness my final destination was to a college campus that was expecting me and was somewhat better prepared to welcome me and the other people who were like me and not so much like me. I am who I am because, like my own children, your lived experience I'm sorry, I skipped my part. I want to make sure I didn't get it. I am who I am because of my children, but I'm also really who I am because of my lived experience before them. I believe who I am, and I believe that background helped me to fuel my dedication to equity, inclusivity, and social justice. I knew the community structures and systems where I grew up were less than what they should have been, and that I and others deserve better. All of your multiple voices and identities will only make CMU better and will open the door to so many possibilities. I truly believe that higher education is a platform that, if implemented through a lens of inclusivity, supported by embracing multiple cultures with a steadfast lens to climate, we would be golden in this society. The title character of Ralph Ellison's book, Invisible Man, expresses, "I am invisible, understand, simply because people refuse to see me. Let me show you who I am." This is the Wanda of who I am. I am relational. I like being in the mix. My career has afforded me a lot in the way of meeting wonderful people. The one that stands out the most to me that isn't here is when I met Harry Belafonte and sat with him for 3 hours, and he shared with me how he helped Dr. King and Coretta Scott King. And he told me this story, and the story was, very quickly, that Dr. King, when he was jailed, would say, "Don't get me out too soon. Me being in here will increase the number of people who will come to march and protest. So I can do that. I can be in here." And then after a couple days or so, or a few hours, he then would be bailed out. I got to hear stories like that for 3 hours. It directed me. It focused me. So my job here with you is to help you and I be seen and heard. Not just to raise my voice, not to always just take my selfies. As you can see, I said not always. But to make your experience here be one that you and your families and your friends will be proud of and feel good about. I want to be a part of the journey that helps marginalize the underrepresented and the most vulnerable with all their gifts to be seen and heard, so that the hills we all climb are for our pleasure and enjoyment, or to simply get us to where we want to go, and not the results of trials and tribulations due to injustices, inequities, bias, discrimination, and so forth. I want to actively support combating all isms and help construct a foundation that does not fall when the wind blows, hard or barely. A foundation that is solid and supported by all that surrounds it. I invite you to open your hearts and minds even wider at CMU, so that you are able to let in the beauty and innovation and kindness that humankind has to offer. There is a song, you likely were not born at this time, but this song titled "Ain't No Stopping Us Now," my generation, recorded by artists McFadden and Whitehead. For me, it means succeeding despite what you have faced and will face. That song will serve as my anthem this year. The lyrics are simple. They say, "Ain't no stopping us now, we're on the move. Ain't no stopping us now, we got the groove." There's been so many things that held us down, but now it looks like things are finally coming around. I know we have a long, long way to go, and where we end up, I don't know, but we won't let nothing hold us back. We're putting ourselves together, we're polishing up our act. If you ever felt like you've been held down before, I know you will refuse to be held down anymore. Don't you let nothing stand in your way. I want y'all to listen to every word I say. Ain't no stopping me now. What about you? I am on the move. Why? Because I and my colleagues, the Ginas, Provost Garrett, President Jahanian, and many, many more, we're on the move. We want to walk to that sky. And I want to be right there in line. I thank you and pretend like I am whoever you enjoy listening to that just showed up at your school. So I am going to need a big clap and cheer. I thank you all for taking the moment to listen to me, and I thank you all out there who are watching me. I am so grateful and so appreciative to be here with you. At this time, I welcome my colleagues, Mark D'Angelo and Alaine Allen, to the stage to join me. Let's give them a hand.
Good morning, everyone. Let's give Dr. Heading-Grant a round of applause for sharing that words of encouragement. We're so glad you were able to share your story, your journey here to Carnegie Mellon, and we're just honored to have an opportunity to talk to you. My name is Alaine Allen, and I'm talking with a mask, which is different. And I'm the Associate Dean for Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion in the College of Engineering. And so I'm just thrilled to be in this room with you, to get a chance to see you, to get a chance to facilitate this conversation. And I want my colleague Mark to introduce himself as well.
Hi all, my name is Mark D'Angelo. My pronouns are he, him, his, and I am the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Learning and Consultant Development and Trainer, and I work in Wanda's office for the Vice Provost of DEI.
So welcome, and we all get an opportunity to be new with you. So I started at Carnegie Mellon in February.
I started 2 weeks ago.
That's right.
And so Dr. Heading-Grant, we are curious to know, I have a couple of questions, but before I start with my questions, I want to encourage you students to share your questions. And so you are invited to submit your questions via slido.com. I believe there's information that'll pop up behind me that'll give you an opportunity to log in. So how many of you have questions? Just raise your hand if you have them. Not that we're going to ask them now, but questions? Any questions from you? So if you have those questions, submit those and we'll get to them as we move through the program. But Dr. Heading-Grant, what made you talked about being at the University of Vermont for almost 30 years. So what made you come to Carnegie Mellon University?
Well, I could have said they had me at hello, but that's not true. And so I was at a particular time in my life that I had begun to think about my next steps in my career. I thought I had done all I could do at the University of Vermont, but that really wasn't true. It was really about that I was done being there, not because I didn't love it, but because I wanted a new adventure, but I was looking for the right place to come to. And that place turns out that it was CMU, and why it was the right place, I love the fact that this position is inaugural. Love it. I love the fact that I could be a part of putting my cultural architectural skills together here at work here at CMU. And I was most impressed with my conversations with Provost Jim Garrett, as well as President Farnham Jahanian. And I loved what I saw that was written and that was stated in the people that I met, who really spoke, I thought, the truth about the things in our histories that gets echoed, and that understood that they had a long, long way to go and wanted assistance and wanted to name all the ills, all the isms of the world and address them. So I was inspired by the commitment of what I felt from Carnegie Mellon individuals to be here, and I love that it was inaugural. And it was nice that it was on the East Coast as well, or is this the East Coast?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
We had that debate the other day. So one of the things that I heard in your presentation, you talked a lot about determination. So as we all are new to Carnegie Mellon University, we're moving into a new experience, a new environment, a new level of work. Is that right, class of 2025? So what do you do to build your determination?
Oh, that's easy. I listen to music. I talk to students, and especially my own children. My children, my daughter that was there just finished college this year, and they tell me when I got it wrong, I'm not doing it right, and I also then have to run and achieve it, and what they said I wasn't doing right. But my determination really ultimately just comes from, I think I want to say it feels innate, like I can't remember if it was said, but my background is one of being a social worker, and in the end, so I did not go into business when I went to college, and it is who I am at the heart, and I really believe in working and looking at people through their strengths and putting those up front, and so my determination is about making not just a better tomorrow, but I'm really about the better today. So I get hyped through my music, I get hyped through my children, I get hyped through college students, and then somewhere in there, what I feel about caring about society and what I think is right in the world, it just keeps me moving. I wake up this way. I tell a lot of my colleagues that that I'm a 3/4 kind of person, glass full, not just half.
That's excellent.
Oh, you were getting ready to clap, right? We need some clapping going on up in here. Okay.
Mark, do you have any questions?
Yeah, we have some questions coming through. The first one, what are some everyday benefits of diversity in a university setting?
The everyday benefit is this kind of situation. Everyday benefit is that we get to be amongst multiple voices and faces and ideas and viewpoints that will enhance the world. That the work that you all are here to hear about as well as share will be what we're talking about in the next few years that you're contributing in terms of society. It also, from a cultural and climate standpoint, I like when I see people that look like me. I like when I see people who don't look like me. I like the conversation. I like the community that gets built. And so out of that, it brings different kinds of conversations in the classroom. It brings different kind of teaching in the classroom. It brings different kind of programs on campus and coming together. And it allows for us to work towards, build that empathy and understanding around people who are not like ourselves, but also is deserving of the most and the best. And so I think that there are multiple benefits for diversity, inclusion, and equity, and we have yet to begin to really feel what it can really do for us as a society and where we could be around it.
So a popular question that's brewing is talking about how can we make all students feel welcome from all walks of life? And any ideas you could speak to?
Well, I think first we need to offer a class on how to take selfies, and that will help.
There's a question about that coming up too.
Uh-oh. So you know what? One of the things before I answer that question, somebody want to take a selfie or a picture, please do. I love them. Please send them to me. It is my desire to get to know you as much as I can. I think it's important for us to meet students where they're at. We're all on this journey. Some of us are using different modes of transportation to do, when I mean that, I mean that metaphorically in the sense that some will show up by way of train, someone will show up by way of plane, some will walk, some will be on a bike. Meet them where they're at and on, and as well as the kind of mode of transportation of how they're getting here. I think we need to listen. I think that sometimes people talk too much. We have to ask ourselves, what's the purpose of talking? Well, I got to be careful of that because I like to talk. But sometimes we have to ask, what's the purpose of what we're saying and doing? So sometimes that means be quiet and listen. So I think in terms of meeting our students where they're at, listening to them, and creating the kind of environment where they can thrive and be successful. And that may be different for each and every one of you. And the only way we will know that is if we give you space to share that.
Thank you for that. Thanks. So thinking about some of your comments, thinking about just where we are, the one thing that's really exciting about Carnegie Mellon is the fact that it's a global university. And as Gina mentioned, we have over 30 countries represented in our first year class. And so any detailed or practical advice you can give to students about how to connect with that global community right here on campus?
Yeah. I know you probably heard it a lot, but it is important to get involved and to get engaged at whatever level that feels important to you. One of the things I did not share, when I went off to my institution, you will not believe it, but I was really shy and bashful. I really stayed very close to my roommates, and I also had attended that institution through a summer enrichment program. But I would not branch out because I was shy. And one day I was invited to an event, and I went, and the advice and the things that were occurring and happening just took me to another level that I wanted to be involved. But that involved was more, 2 steps more of showing up, and no one had to ask me. And so I think it's important for you to engage, be involved, take advantage of all the opportunities that are put before you. Share, talk, again, at your level, at your pace. Don't suffer, be suffering, and not share with anyone. And do not be flexible. So I think in terms of that, along with the wonderful people that are here to help and support you, you're gonna be good. You're gonna be good, but we all have that shared responsibility to making sure if I don't know you're hurting or if I don't know you're happy, I don't know how to respond. And so basically speak up, share, talk, have lots of fun, good and appropriate fun, have fun, and take advantage of all that CMU has to offer.
So this could be a question for both of you. What inspires you, especially to do specifically DEI work?
Oh, wow.
Or who? Who inspires you?
Well, lots of people absolutely inspires me. And so there was just a lot of individuals. I will tell you at one time, I decided that I was going to be Oprah Winfrey. And then I decided I wanted to be Gayle King. And then it just kept moving and moving around. And then one time, I don't know why, but then I thought I would be, you all may not remember this person, but Desmond Tutu. I just did. So there are lots of people that I think are worthy of our attention and as well as honor because they have sacrificed so much, or they have the gift and of sharing their authentic self. But what really inspires me, I love higher education. I started off at doing clinical social work in a hospital. I used to do psych evaluations in the emergency room. And when I came to higher education, I came in through a counseling center because I was their first clinical social worker. And what I enjoyed so much about higher education was the opportunity to do so many things. I could teach, I could be an administrator, I could be a counselor, I could go to programs. And so what inspires me is being a part of a community, an institution that I really strongly and truly believe is again, I say it, a platform for shifting paradigms, for making change so that this world can be a better place. So what inspires me? It's higher education and all that it has to offer. I'm glad you're here, and me too, that I'm here too.
I guess I want to add to that. So you asked me as well. One of the things that inspires me is I'm an introverted extrovert, if that makes any sense. So if you look at the spectrum of introvert, extrovert, I'm right on the line. And in that process, one thing that I enjoy is just really meeting people and getting to hear their stories. And so I think back to when I started college, all of the people that I met from different places, learning different things about myself, learning some of the biases that I had, but also the opportunities that were out there. And so that inspires me to step into the space and learn as much. So what I want to say to you, even though the question is about me, is get to know someone. You know, some people come to college with this thought, I'm going to have 4 friends, it's us 4, no more, but that is not how we want you to move through these years at Carnegie Mellon. Get to know your roommates, plug into other student organizations, just connect, and through that, you'll learn. So one example, going back to my inspiration, in college, I have a friend I met who's from South Africa, and I shared this story with the graduate students. So she lived in South Africa. It was during apartheid at that time. I didn't really know what apartheid was. I did a little, but not from her perspective. She graduated from high school in Boston. That was confusing to me. If she's from South Africa, how did she end up in Boston? Well, through getting to know her, I learned that her family moved her there because of what was happening to children at the time. Some of them were being killed or harmed, and so they moved her to Boston. And then later in life, I connected with her in visiting South Africa. And I never anticipated that when I was a freshman in college. So the people that you meet now, this is your community that you're going to keep throughout. And so the motivation for me in DEI is making sure I'm connected to that broader community, and I understand what are the strengths and weaknesses and journeys of that community so that I can share that with others.
Makes me wonder, the same question back actually to Mark, if I may.
Thank you.
Oh, who inspires me? I think I try to live by this principle of leaving the world better than I found it. And so I think that's always guiding me forward of what can I possibly do to change the environment around me, the structures, the systems, so that the people who come after me have it that much better. But we have time for one more quick question. It's probably our most popular upvoted question. Wanda, this is for you, Dr. Heading-Grant. What's your favorite selfie you've ever taken?
Oh, wow. I have so many, but that is a wonderful question. I don't know if it's my favorite, but I'll tell you. How many people know the actor Danny Glover? And I can tell you more how and why I had dinner with various people. But Danny Glover and the late great B.B. King, I cooked for B.B. King, his orchestra. If I was not doing this work, I first would want to be a gospel singer, but I can't sing, but I might be able to sing. And then I thought about if I could be a chef, but I also did not have any role models around that. And so my selfie with B.B. King and with Danny Glover, I asked him the question, what was it like in terms of the color purple, being in the color purple? And I was shocked with his answer. And he finally answered me. He took some time, and it's the worst question, he said, that people ask him. He said the color purple made him sad for a long time. And he said that because after he played the character that he played, that people hated him. And that even his own grandmother slapped him across the shoulder and said, I taught you better than that. And he had to, it's a show, it's a movie. And so he really felt like he gave credit to Mel Gibson from, I forget the name of the movies that they were in.
Lethal Weapon, I think.
Yeah, Lethal Weapon, because everyone wanted to hire him after that to play a bad guy. And it was Mel Gibson who he gives credit to giving a part in Lethal Weapon, and that people can then begin to see him different. So while he's telling me that, I'm trying to take a selfie, and it sort of comes, my hand comes down, and The Color Purple, the book, is my favorite book, and so I share that with you. Is that one It touched my heart, and it's something I never thought about when he shared that with me.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. So thank you, Dr. Heading-Grant. Thank you, Mark D'Angelo, for joining us in this conversation. But this conversation doesn't end here. We must continue to hold space for moments like this to get to know one another, allow them to share their stories, and even talk about difficult topics that hold us apart. So thank you for attending today, and I hope you have a successful academic year and look forward to more interactions like today. I also hope you to continue to engage with one another long after this orientation week. Find your community, visit the Center for Student Diversity and Inclusion, speak with my team in engineering or the DEI lead in your college or school, and then keep that conversation going so that we can impact the story of Carnegie Mellon. So we'd like to transition, and so I want to invite, so let's give us a round of applause.
Yeah.